Our top story this afternoon, Edward Snowden has left the Sheremetyevo airport in Moscow after Russian authorities granted him temporary asylum in the country. The attorney for the former NSA contractor says the documents allowing him to stay in Russia were issued today. Snowden is now allowed to live, work, and travel in the country for up to a year. This temporary asylum is also renewable. Almost as soon as those papers were issued, Edward Snowden packed up his bags and left the airport, bound for an undisclosed location. Where he goes and what he does from here on out is still very much a mystery. For the latest from Moscow, earlier I was joined by RT correspondent Lindsay France, and I asked her if she has any idea where Edward Snowden is headed.
Well, that is the million-dollar question in Moscow right now. There's been no official indication of where he may have been headed when he left the airport. WikiLeaks did release a statement saying that he and his advisor, Sarah Harrison, had left the airport this afternoon. But a lot of importance has been placed on the secrecy of his location. He still feels like a hunted man. And the man who has been advising him here on the ground, the one really facilitating a lot of his communications here, Anatoly Kucherina, did say that it is important that Edward keep his location secret. So as much as the press here would like to know where he's spending this first night in Moscow, it is not forthcoming at this point.
Do we have any indication where he is headed or what he plans to do next? Where will he stay in Russia? I know that the Russian government has indicated that it will not help him answer any of those questions, but do we have any indication at this point?
Well, the next step in his plan, according to his advisors, when he initially put forth his temporary asylum bid in Russia, there were plans. If the bid was turned down, he was going to appeal it, and that made it obvious he was very serious about living here. Now that the bid has been favorable to his cause, he does plan to pursue work and to settle here in Russia. He's, as his advisor Anatoly Kucherina has told us, he's learning Russian, and he wants to make a go of it here. Now, this asylum, this temporary asylum term will last 12 months, and it's got to be renewed yearly, indefinitely. So either way, he's got to make another bid every year, but it still gives him 12 solid months to set up some sort of a life. And his advisor is also helping his father, Lon, to get the proper paperwork in order to get a visa to finally come here and visit his son.
Should we expect Edward Snowden to make a beeline for the Ecuadorian embassy in Moscow or elsewhere, considering the fact that he was granted permanent asylum in those Latin American countries?
Well, one thing that this entire story, the 39 days of his time here at Sheremetyevo Airport, has shown is that he is not at all eager to take to the skies again. There is the possibility of a plane being forced to land. We saw this on July 3rd with the president of Bolivia's plane. So if any information got out that he was on a flight, it could be grounded, and then he may end up in the clutches of U.S. law enforcement. And that is the number one thing he and his family do not want. So at this point, he and his advisors do say it's best for him to stay here, and that is exactly what he plans to do.
Lindsay, can you go into a little bit more detail about this temporary refugee status and what it really means? Can he travel outside of the country, for instance?
He cannot go outside of the country, but he can travel entirely within the bounds of the Russian Federation, from Moscow to Vladivostok in the Far East. So really wherever he wants to go. Obviously, he's got resources. WikiLeaks is assisting him. It has been assisting him this entire time. He's obviously got allies in this country right now, and a lot of Russians very much approve of what he's done and how far he's taken things as far as finding safety from the government and not wanting to possibly risk having an unfair trial, and what he's shown in his bravery in coming to a new country to try to establish a life. So people here are ready with open arms to assist him. So when it comes to a job, which temporary asylum seekers are able to have here, he could seek employment. He may find places to live and even money at his disposal. So it's not as if he's leaving a war-torn country and knowing no one when he comes to this land. He's actually got some resources, and it's been very obvious since this story broke. So it'll be interesting to see. As his advisor Anatoly Kucherina said, if he's ready to meet the press, we could be seeing that in the next couple of days. And what will be interesting to see is what he's got to say to us at that point.
Now, President Obama had plans to head to Moscow to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin in September. Is there any indication that those talks might be off or are affected by this asylum?
Well, initially, last week when the paperwork from the Federal Immigration Services was reported to possibly have been done, and there was a big sort of press jam here at the airport, and that paperwork was not forthcoming, that's when we saw some strong reactions from the United States as far as possibly moving the location of the G20 summit outside of Russia. And of course, the point of doing that would be to take it out of Russia and therefore possibly making Obama's visit with President Putin, not happen. So it looks as if, since that has been shelved, that the meeting will still go on. No word yet on exactly where specifically that'll take place. But it looks right now as if everything is going to go on as usual. Of course, behind closed doors, who's to say? But we will be hearing about that obviously after it happens.
Now, the U.S. and Russia do not have any type of extradition treaty. So talk about how that plays into this. Obviously, American officials have lashed out, saying that they're very upset about the fact that Edward Snowden was granted even this temporary asylum. So is that having any effect on U.S.-Russia relations?
Well, when it comes to, as you said, there is no extradition treaty. And there was a tweet by U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, on the 24th or 25th of July that simply said, we are not asking for extradition, just a simple return of Snowden. And that was something that Russia essentially said, we have no obligation to do it, and so we're not going to. And they've really stuck to their guns on that. And that has been something that has really been unwavering. And so there's obviously a lot of frustration coming from the U.S.'s side on this. And there have been government officials tweeting since news broke that Snowden had left the airport, very frustrated. And what'll be interesting to watch in the coming days is the State Department's reaction to this, that he has stepped foot outside of the airport. He is in the Russian Federation. He's got 12 months here. New information has come out today on other NSA programs that people are not happy about. And so this story is building on itself over and over and over again. It's just snowballing. And so this next week, we'll probably have a lot of new things to cover as far as what government reactions are.
And so the hunt for Edward Snowden continues anew. RT correspondent Lindsay France reporting from Moscow. Thank you so much.